a brand new episode of the podcast entitled Couch Potatoes Unite! Which is based on a blog of the same name because once upon a time, this was one of CPU's very first covered shows, both on the blog and on the podcast. And now our coverage is very nearly almost done. But is it a happy ending or a happy beginning? Owen branding. That's what it really is. My name is Kylie and I love TV. If you feel the same, keep listening and or checking out our website, couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com, as you're bound to find some common ground or something you like. For Couch Potatoes Unite, we're all about the wonders and the unique long-form storytelling of the small screen. CPU, ! is ready for the holidays and hopes you've been following releases of brand new episodes of the podcast on Wednesdays, as well as new blog entries on some Tuesdays, and as always, we have several more new episodes on the way. Because the panelists and I live lives behind our podcast, the episodes are published once per week. Subscribe to the blog or the podcast via iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and via Google Play to stay on top of brand new episodes. Episodes already published discuss a variety of shows around Water Cooler, including, but not limited to, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, The Vampire Diaries, The Good Place, Grace and Frankie, Game of Thrones, Broadchurch, Stranger Things, iZombie, Fuller House, American Horror Story, Doctor Who, Supernatural, The X-Files, Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Gotham, New Girl, Schitt's Creek, and the 4 shows of the Arrowverse on the CW. We've looked back at shows such as Sense8, Battle Creek, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel, and many more. Plus, new episodes are in the works, including revisits for a series of unfortunate events, 13 Reasons Why, Orange is the New Black, and the Marvel's Defenders panel will talk Season 3 of Daredevil. We'll be launching new panels covering Westworld, Arrested Development, Jane the Virgin, and The Americans. And because we look back at shows now past, I swear to you, listener, on all that I hold dear, we will soon be looking back at one of our most popularly requested panels of all time, which is Friends, but it's a really large panel, and their schedules are really hard, and you get my drift. It's coming though, it really is. By the way, did you know that CPU also from time to time goes live? We've been live from bunkers and comedy shows, and we just went live for the 3rd time from Grand Rapids Comic Con, plus we're planning more live appearances and other cool stuff. So make sure you like or follow us at our Facebook page, our Twitter at CPU Podcast, our Instagram at Couch Potatoes Unite, or subscribe to the blog, our YouTube channel, our iTunes channel, our Stitcher Radio channel, or find us on Google Play. In the meantime, if you don't hear a show in this podcast format, fellow panelists and I still write reviews, and we always seek new panelists. So if you have any interest in joining the discussion, say hello by finding us at any of those outlets I've mentioned. At the very least, stop by and leave us a thumbs up, comment, or review. We like feedback, as long as you're providing us with our second chance and happy beginning in the process. Isn't that nice? Today we're around the water cooler because our long-running alliance of fairy tale enthusiasts, namely Kristen, Amy, Eddie, Emily, and Micah, have gathered together once again, to take a look back one final time at departed fantasy series Once Upon a Time, which aired for 7 total seasons from 2011 to 2018 on ABC. If you aren't already aware, from time to time, CPU chooses shows of all types, but usually of some fame or notoriety to reminisce about, and to consider whether or not they age gracefully like Belle, or don't hold up as well like Rumpelstiltskin, pining after Belle. As such, this is another chapter of our Looking Back podcast episodes wherein we review a show that has been gone, either via natural end or cancellation for some time. And today, we reminisce about Once Upon a Time in an episode that represents the second of our 2-part goodbye series, in which we bid the end and happy endings, beginnings, and or second chances to the fractured fairy tale that gave us all a little repurposed Disney magic. Once again, or one final time, Once Upon a Time is an American fantasy drama series that follows various fairy tale characters who were transported to the real world and robbed of their original memories by a powerful curse. The first 6 seasons were largely set in the fictitious seaside town of Storybrooke, Maine, with Emma Swan as the lead character, and Emma Swan was played by Jennifer Morrison, while the 7th takes place in a Seattle, Washington neighborhood called Hyperion Heights, with a new main narrative led by an adult Henry Mills, played by Andrew J. West. In the 7th season reboot, Henry, along with Regina, played by Lana Parrilla, Captain Hook, played by Colin O'Donoghue, and Rumpelstiltskin, played by Robert Carlyle, are found years later in the Seattle neighborhood of Hyperion Heights, where characters from a different realm are brought under a new curse. Episodes of the series usually had one segment that details the characters' past lives that, when serialized, added a piece to the puzzle about the characters and their connection to the events that preceded the curse and its consequences. The other, set in the present day, follows a similar pattern with a different outcome, but also offers similar insights. For more detailed plot summaries, check out our other Once Upon a Time episodes at the website. We've been covering this show on the podcast since season 4, and I reviewed it on the blog since before that even. If you didn't already know, you can click the floating box at the top right of the header, the picture of a couch full of United Couch Potatoes, to search for any prior podcast episode or blog entry, which is frankly really neat. For now, our once panelists are somewhat cursed, somewhat blessed, but always willing to pause and to take a look back at the show they've loved so long, Once Upon a Time, and to consider whether the show was successful as a whole now that we've seen it beginning to end. As always, it should be noted that all of our panelists have viewed all of Once Upon a Time and may discuss sensitive plot points. So, for those of you who haven't watched any of Once Upon a Time, listen at your own risk, as there are going to be, and guaranteed will be, major spoilers. Welcome back, panel. How are you?
Hello.
Hi. Are you ready to record this, our final Once Upon a Time discussion?
Oh, maybe. We have to. Sure. I'm not ready to say goodbye.
Oh, the emotions will flow. The feelings will feel. So, this is a looking back episode. It's a little bit different than our normal looking back episodes because we usually have one-off panels. This is a looking back panel now, but you've been together for several episodes over several recordings, so we're going to truncate a little bit of what we normally do and also add a few little spins that are Once Upon a Time specific. This is our longest running panel, which is now coming to a close. And I find that very accomplishing, so very good. So because this is looking back, what we're going to start with is the standard CPU character question, which changes with each show we do, only here's the spin. You are now going to answer. I'm going to give you 2 sets of character questions. The first is the very first character question we ever used for Once Upon a Time. And the second is the last one we used in the last episode, which is different.
I remember the first one. I know.
And I might break it out so you don't have to remember all the things. The first character question is how you felt at the very beginning watching the series for the very first time.
I remember this.
I know. And the second character question, which you can either reiterate what you said last time or you can kind of go global, go one step above and say, now that these 7 seasons are done, this is how I feel about Once Upon a Time according to the second character question. Sound good?
Okay. Yes. Okay.
Do you want to do beginning first and second, or do you want me to just read it all?
Separate. We're going to have to do it separate. That's too much information.
Okay, I understand. So, for how you felt at the beginning watching Once Upon a Time, here was our very first CPU Once Upon a Time character question. Did you just love the story and being part of it like Henry? Was it true love like Snow White and Prince Charming? Did you just want your happy ending and would do anything, even watch this show until you got it, like Regina? Could you believe you've been convinced to watch it as long as you did, like Emma? It's not the show that interests you, but it was the magic and the power, dearie, like Rumpelstiltskin. It's not the show that interested you, but the cute girls, like for Hook, or boys, like for Belle, or, crisscross if you prefer the same sex. You couldn't care less about this show because you just like talking about TV and stories, like August/Pinocchio, or maybe Neil/Balefire, R.I.P. to both. Or you didn't like the show at all, but what the hell, and I had no character for that at the time. Who would like to start?
I'll start.
Okay.
I'm jumping on it.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Kristen.
Hi, Kristen.
Hi, I'm one of the original CPU OUAT panelists.
You are.
I am, and I am also a huge resident Disney nerd, which I'm sure if you've listened to this series, you already know about me. I love Disney so much, it hurts.
Wow.
Yeah, so...
We've gone painful.
I have gone painful. Already. Yeah, I remember sitting in my living room and watching this premiere live on TV all the way back in 2011, 2010, 2011. Yeah, I remember being really excited when the previews were coming out, this is going to be my show, and it was my show for 7 wonderful years. So, at the very beginning, it was true love. So I'm multiple because I can't pick just one. So, I love the story and I love being part of it like Henry. It's true love because I loved the first season, like Snow White and Prince Charming. And also, there was a lot of cute boys, especially Sheriff Skinny Jeans, a.k.a. Sheriff Graham. And also when Hook came in season 3. Oh, baby. The guy
They upped the
liner.
eye candy game.
Oh,
I'm
they
like,
did.
Yeah.
They
Guy
did.
liner.
So, yep. So Henry, the Charmings, and technically Belle. But Belle's also my favorite Disney princess, so I can't not choose her.
Okay, keep those in mind.
Yep.
Welcome back, Kristen.
Thanks.
This is Amy, and I'm so excited because it's exciting to actually be in the room with people, because so often I've had to like call in from wherever I was at the time.
Did you call in when we first did our
Yeah.
very first?
I did.
Still New Jersey.
I did. And when I started to watch it, I was binging because I didn't watch it live. It was, Kylie's recommendation as well as other people. Hey, gotta check out the show. I checked it out. I loved it. So mine, much like Kristen, I like to pick multiple ones, but definitely Henry. Loved everything about it. Loved it. As well as the Charmings. Like, I love the story and being part of it, but I also, the true love aspect, I was like, and I just love that. And I would also say, I think I would also say Belle
Yes.
and Lacey. I mean, you can't deny the
So
people that
many
they've brought on the
cute
show. Those are my answers, and I'm sticking to it.
Welcome, Amy. Those are your answers, and you're sticking to it.
Yep.
Hello, it's Eddie.
Hi, Eddie.
Wow, I can't believe her. A 3 were the original. Okay, I had to
But
take
don't make the two that are
No,
not.
I mean, I'm so glad we
they are
got growing.
wonderful
No.
additions.
Alienation complete.
Good
My
job,
God.
What I was going for. No shocker here, but I'm gonna have to pick. Actually, I'm gonna be a multiple. I'm gonna have to pick Regina,
Because you always do.
because I always do.
Yeah.
And you
We
always
gotta-
have.
We have
Yeah.
to stay consistent.
Except the one time.
Except the one random.
The only one time.
Right. I also have to say that when I first started watching the show, I remember sitting in the middle of my living room. I watched it live. I was lucky. And going, what did I just watch? And I actually had to go back on the app to watch it again, and I just fell in love with the show. And of course, if you've listened to any of the podcasts, I have male crushes that are in this show.
Merlin is not one of these options.
I know!
Thanks for
But,
getting it early.
right, I'm gonna have to agree that there's some hot guys in this show. There's even some pretty good-looking women in this show. I'm still gay, sorry guys. Just for the record, that's what changed. So yeah, that's it.
Okay. Welcome back, Eddie.
Hi, it's Emily. Let's try this
Emily.
again.
Let's try this again.
I am 100% with Kristen and Amy on all of their choices. I'm going to say Hook just because I prefer Hook over Belle, but I do still enjoy the attractive men. But Hook,
Yeah.
because I love Hook. But yeah, no, I remember watching the very first episode. I think it was maybe the day after it aired, but it was still like right at the beginning. And I think I watched most of the first season when it first came out, and then I stopped and then went back in and binged the whole thing, and then you asked me to be on the podcast, and I was like, okay, I just binged this is perfect, and then now here we are.
And I hope you're happy to be here.
I am.
Okay,
Absolutely.
welcome back, Emily.
All right, well, that leaves me. I'm Micah. Hello again, everybody.
Hi, Micah. Hello again, everybody.
I actually, hearing you guys say that, I am the latest comer to the show then, because I didn't really hear about it debuting at all. I didn't hear any buzz from any friends or anything like that. But I would see commercials every now and then, and I don't know what it is about Jennifer Morrison, but if you're not on her team, it's really hard to want to be on her team. So I was just kind of bugged a little bit by her character, because Emma in the first couple seasons is very just wait, what? No, wait, what? There's a lot of that. So I wasn't super drawn into the show, but documenting the power of the Neverland arc, I saw commercials for season 3, and I was like, oh, well, now hold on a little bit. Let's go see about this. And so I binged the first 2 seasons quite quickly. So I think I am going to be a combination, as we all choose to be. I am
Apparently.
I set the trend. I love this.
Kristen's like, this is the panel that lets me do this.
I get yelled at on the other one.
It's okay. You're accepted here.
You are accepted here.
You're a safe space.
That's your happy ending.
But no, I am Henry because I love this story. I love being a part of it. It was true love. And also, I was, as a, 11-year-old, I watched too much Lost for an 11-year-old.
There's no such thing.
No such thing.
Agreed, but I find it weird that I liked it as much as I did when I did. But so getting another taste of that, I was just super drawn into the show, and it was true love all over again. But for your Hook Bell question, I'm going to throw in my own addition. I'm going to add Sheriff Skinny Jeans, a.k.a. Graham, because Lana Parrilla has had my heart in the palm of her hand since episode 1, and she still hasn't let go. Maybe someday she'll know she has. I don't know.
She also has a rockin' Instagram. If you don't follow her on Instagram, you should.
All right.
I do.
Oh, she's very much into her social media.
She is. She's wonderful.
And she loves her fans. She gave
fans
me a
love her.
shout out for my birthday.
What? How
You
did
should go to my Instagram.
I need to go to your Instagram.
For days.
How are we just hearing? How am I just hearing this?
Right?
Well, now you have to Insta it to the Couch Potatoes Unite.
Yeah, for real. Hello. That would have been the perfect time
At
to
Couch
like
Potatoes Unite, sorry.
Yeah.
tag CPU on that.
What, we're
and
famous.
Tag her.
But also, welcome back, Micah.
Yay! The family is all together again. In the same room again.
In the
It's
same
true.
room.
And I have to answer the question. So my name is Kylie, because I say that. And
Welcome back, Kylie.
Hi,
Thank you, hi. And I actually also started watching, this is one of the shows that I knew was coming out, and looked at it and thought, this is right up my alley. It's fantasy, there appears to be a lot of Disney involved, I think I'll probably like this one. So I sat down to watch it, and I did! And when I started the series, I was also Henry and Snow White and Prince Charming. I loved the story. It was true love. This was my favorite show for a time, like tops of the pops.
Yep.
It was the best show ever for at least a little while.
Preach.
I would not necessarily add the cute girls, boys thing right away. It was when Hook came. That's when I fell in love with the cute. So that was not till season 3. But at the very, very first, that's where I would have been as Henry and the Charmings. So that's the beginning. Now, to put into perspective, what was the end? So here's this one again. Are you ready?
It's like we're doing our own flashback sequence for this episode.
It is! It's kind of cool that way. So at the end of the show, looking back on all 7 seasons, did you just love the story and all of its unpredictability and all of its characters? Maybe the main characters slightly more, like a good author or writer would. Also, you relate to most of the characters and stories. After all, you'll always have the heart of the truest believer, like Henry. Did you love the show? And you can add in the reboot or not in the reboot, even though you know that what you're watching isn't quite right or even what you should be watching. You know, however, in your heart that this show could be good again and was good again if the fans believed like you did, like Lucy. Did you want it to be good because you wanted to be good? Did you want the show to be good because you wanted yourself to be good? You believed all things should be given second or third or fourth chances, at least regarding your own potential redemption, like Wish Realm Hook, aka Detective Rogers. Did you like the show? You thought the show solidly rebooted itself or was solid all the way across all 7 seasons, especially with all of the changes, and you're prepared to fight for your second chance and show enjoyment, or were prepared, without being bowled over by the parts that left you feeling you didn't like yourself for watching and loving it, because if nothing else, you watched to see the appearances of all the old characters you loved again, like Rumpelstiltskin, aka Detective Weaver. Did you reluctantly like the show? Some of the show's twists caught you by surprise, so you reluctantly kept watching, but you also saw massive flaws and some recycled storytelling, particularly when it came to casting curses and protecting Henry, like Regina, who later became Ronnie. Did you think watching the show was a big risk? Especially in the reboot, you were either ready to dive into the deep end like Queen Tiana, aka Sabine, or had to be talked into it like Cinderella, aka Jacinda, because first, all your friends and family still watched it and you wanted to keep talking about it with them, and second, the risk paid off and you enjoyed everything in spite of yourself. You didn't know what you were watching. You convinced yourself to keep watching because you felt obligated by your podcast producer to do so, because you really cared about the fate of only 1 or 2 characters, so you persevered for the sake of those characters, which were like family to you, like Ivy Belfry, aka Drizella the Wicked Stepsister. Did you hate watch it by the end, or didn't want to watch it anymore because you felt you'd been burned ultimately by the show's creative team and you were ready to seek your revenge, like Nick, aka Jack, aka Hansel, Or have you decided you hate it forevermore because you thought it was evil, rehashed, and simply not as awesome as you? Plus, you felt that non-magical beings are a blight to the earth, despite your secret yearning to be just like them, like Mother Gothel, aka Eloise Gardner. Who'd like to start this round?
How about I go first and we do it in the same order?
Okay!
Keep it easy.
Go, girl.
Keep it easy. Okay.
down with that.
So it's Kristen again. In
It
case
is
you
Kristen
can't
again.
tell by now. So at the end of the series, end of season 7, looking back over everything as a whole, obviously I can't choose, the Charmings again because they're not a character in season 7. And Belle died. Can't choose her again.
Maybe she has to be.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
Spoiler.
However, there were still some very cute people in season 7. Not as cute as the original 6, but they had some nice eye candy for us girls. So I'm gonna say, and you, Eddie, we
I
got
got it. I get it.
Yeah, I'm just checking.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You ready, Eddie?
Yeah, I'm good.
So I'm gonna choose 3 again just to keep things consistent. I'm still gonna choose Henry because I still love it, even though it wasn't the same at the end. I still love it like any good author or writer would. I still love these characters in the story. I did really like the show in its rebooted concept. I thought it really could have gone further if ABC hadn't canceled it. And I really thought, hey, after some missteps and they're taking a big chance here, it was good. So, so Henry and Lucy for the 2 believers. And then also I'm going to choose Regina/Ronnie because there were some massive flaws throughout the series as a whole, not just in season 7. All the curses. All the curses.
A lot of curses.
Hashtag potential.
Hashtag drink.
Yep. So those are my 3. Henry, Lucy, and Regina for the final.
All right, Amy here. And, not that this should shock anybody, but Kristen and I are totally in agreement.
Yeah.
there.
We've been in sync throughout most of this.
I would say
Yeah.
a good 97.5%.
At least.
97.5.
Specifically.
So, I think there's 1 or 2, I can't really think of when. But for very much of the same reasons, I do love the story and the moments that were very unpredictable and, of course, some of the main characters more and all of that stuff. Even in its rebooted concept, I still was, in love with it and I still was enjoying the flavor of the show. But again, major flaws, and though I was reluctant because of the podcast, but also because I had devoted so much time and so many hours to watching the show over the course of these few years, I watched it. I plowed through and I was reluctant, but I still did it. And so I'm also Regina for that reason. And that's for all of it.
Hey, it's Eddie. So, are we shocked? I have to say,
Regina again?
I'm Regina. This series for me really hit home because the writers were from Lost, and that show I fell in love with. And I don't want to say it had a lot of the same concepts, but there was a lot of similarities where I was like, okay, I can ride this train. And even though the show, there was some season 5 that I just couldn't.
Or season 4 with Frozen. Did you want to put that plug in there now?
Yeah, I guess.
I was going to do it if he didn't do it.
Right.
I knew it was coming.
I mean, I have to say, there were a lot of points in every single season, even the Frozen season, that we still had amazing writing when they did it. And so when they were going to change it all in season 7, I was very reluctant and I wanted to hate it. And I think we finally got, no pun intended, the charminess of the show back in season 7, where they made me guess what was going to happen. Once I get to a point where I can predict what's happening in a show, either I stop watching it or I just let the shows add up. I finally started getting back to the point where I was like, okay, it's on this week, and I'm going to watch it. Season 7 never really kind of watched it when it came out right on time because of our lives. But yeah, so overall, I have to say I'm staying consistent with my homegirl. I'm going to be Regina.
It's Emily again. I am with Kristen and Amy. I feel like the 3 of us do tend to be
I know, and I love
it. Yeah. Like Kristen,
Hey, Micah.
I'm a huge Disney nerd, and so it was really fun to see how everything kind of got tied together. Us all being musical theater people too, it reminded me a lot of Wicked and how they kind of took this story that everybody knows so well and breathed new life into it.
Flipped it on its head a little bit.
Yep, and that's what I really liked about the series as a whole. I definitely was a little nervous about the reboot like Eddie, and ended up watching it as it was happening, like a couple days later on Hulu or whatever. I was out on the road, so that was one of the shows that I'd put on when I was laying in a hotel room not doing anything. So I definitely was really happy with how the show ended as a whole, and I feel pretty good about it.
And it's Micah, part 2, The Reckoning.
Wow.
I'm going to just be, for my overview of the whole series, one solid Wish Realm hook, aka Detective Rogers, because pretty much once something wins me over, like that's like done. It will take just an extraordinary amount of bad writing and planning for me to actually jump a shark and say I don't like this show anymore. So after falling in love with it in the first 2 seasons, keeping that going very strong through the 3rd season, despite what we had to face next as a congregation, I'm always, even when things are bad, I don't take the attitude of the show's bad now. I take the attitude of this show needs to get good again. I'm always hoping that they'll recapture something that they used to have. And honestly, it says for 2nd, 3rd, or 4th chances. I really think that's how the units were broken up, because Frozen was 4A, and I was like, oh god. 4B was like, oh, it's not Frozen, so okay. 5A, not a big fan. That was Camelot. Things got weird. They were, I think they were scrambling too hard to get
5B,
back. That was
of Darkness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they had a lot going on in those half seasons.
We even met my baby daddy in season 5, and I didn't like.
Or was
season
that
Yeah, I know.
4B?
No, 5B was Queens of Darkness.
What was
Yeah.
4B?
Or wait, I think 4B after Frozen was Queens of Darkness.
Oh,
Because then
you're
we go
right.
into Camelot and then into the Underworld.
Oh yeah.
There we
5B.
go.
Thank you
Which
for
one
all
was
that
Dark
segue.
Swan?
I thought
5B.
5B was
was
Dark
Dark
Swan,
Swan.
and then
5B.
Underworld was
I think
6.
5A and Camelot. I think Dark Swan and Camelot were overlapped because
Yeah.
Excalibur.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yep.
Season
Yeah.
5, yeah.
So you're right.
We
Queens
really
of
need
Darkness,
like a
4B.
chart.
I know.
We do
Yeah,
need a chart.
We made it
I'm pulling up
Chart.
Wikipedia.
Thanks, Emily.
That's good enough to be a chart.
But yeah, so there were many chances that it needed to get back to a good place. I think that by the end of the 6th season, I was satisfied. I felt like that was them starting something really good. It got really bad, but then they managed to stick the landing at the end. But with season 7, that was them saying, all right, this is what we owe you. You stayed up with us for this long. This isn't just us trying to scramble and recover what we had messed up. Now we're going to give you something. And I think that they really managed to give us something good, including the character of Wish Realm Hook, who was a much better character than I thought he would be.
Which I appreciated that it was a Wish Realm hook and not a regular hook. Which we'll get into later, I'm sure.
Maybe. Yeah, we're looking back.
Yeah.
So I would probably land on Rumpelstiltskin for the end of the show. I do think the show had some solid reboot. There was a lot of changes. I would throw a dash of Regina in there for the recycled storytelling just because curses, all the curses, I think was Kristen's quote just a minute ago. But ultimately, when it came down to the whole show as an overview, for me it was Rumpelstiltskin. I really still like the concept. I really still like what it was trying to do. But as you know, if you've listened to other episodes in this series, for me it's really hard to switch gears on a reboot in the same universe with similar characters in such a short span of time. It's not that I don't like change. I'm usually good for change, but this was like well, we're ending this now and ham-fisting a new change for you, and so you had to come along for that ride. And for me, that it takes a little bit, just in terms of my own personal bias, if you will. But even still, just by the end of the show, it was me watching to see the older characters come back. I think that's when I really started to love season 7 again, or at least like it a whole lot. I liked Regina, I like Rumple, I like Wish Realm Hook, I like seeing all of them. I even liked Adult Henry. I liked that they gave it a really ballsy try, if you will, in this reboot. But it wasn't necessarily where I wanted the season to, or the series to land in the end, even though I do agree with Micah's assessment that it was more of a chance for them to say, okay, we're doing it right, if you will, by the end. Because season 6 was kind of a rush job to say, okay, we might get canceled, so let's make this really good. So there was a little bit of that. For me, Once Upon a Time lost me after the Frozen arc, probably pretty solidly, although I I didn't mind the Dark Swan arc, but pairing it with Camelot was nuts.
Yeah.
That was weird. The Underworld wasn't so bad. 6A was a hot mess too. That was the one with Aladdin and all the... I don't even know if they had a hashtag. Yeah. The Black Fairy came in for season 6.
It was Rumple's mother, because they had to tie her in somehow.
Because they couldn't just leave the family tree alone. They're like, one more branch. One more
branch. Yeah, the most convoluted family tree in television history.
Exactly. Yeah. So for me, it was season 1 was great. Season 2 was great. Neverland, great. Oz, less great, but all right. Frozen, boom, down. And then it was trying to claw itself back up a little bit. And then finally made it there by the end of season 6 with a really good finale. And you're like, okay, that could have been it. And then they did 7, and 7 was pretty good. And they ended it. So I don't know. That's where I feel maybe that makes me the negative Nelly. I've accepted it. I'm all right. Things are great. So now, let us look back at the show. This is overall. You can be as general or as specific as you want. We've talked about general seasons. This is you telling, let's say this is a brand new viewer to Once Upon a Time. They're like, dear Once Upon a Time panel, I'm going to sit down and watch Once Upon a Time on Netflix. What would you tell me about this show?
Get a notebook.
What did you like? What didn't you like? And practical tips like get a notebook.
The one thing that I really liked and that I'm still a little confused by is the fact that they broke the curse, the original curse, at the end of season 1.
Yes.
I had no idea where they were going to go with breaking the curse that quickly. That was still a season finale that kind of blew my mind a little bit. It's like, crap, this was their end goal of breaking this curse and getting the memories back, and we did it in one season.
Yeah, like, do we stay here now? Do we? Because we have cell phones here. This is nice. Do we go back to Magic Land?
Where do we go? Yeah. Where do we go?
Cell phones made all the difference.
Yeah.
Am I Dave? Am I Sleepy? Who am I?
Yeah, I mean, so that cliffhanger at the end of season 1 of now there's a new curse coming in. Well, yay, hey, it's a new curse, but where are they going to go?
I did like to point out the only thing really that I liked from the movie Frozen was that the true love that saved the day was familial rather than romantic. They're kind of breaking that old trope, and that was the same with Once Emma, because it was Emma kissing Henry and finally believing, and I thought that was a really nice touch as well.
I agree with that. I would say, I mean, if I were to talk to somebody who wants to start this show anew, it's that they really, I mean, it's kind of heavy. Even though, like, the first season, you do ask, like, what did you love, what did you hate? And so I have to say, of all the seasons, the first season was my favorite because it was the first season. Too. And it offered the most satisfying of all. And it felt new, and it was magical, and we were still making really exciting discoveries, and I just think it was really well done, which is why it continued for as long as it did, which is awesome. But a couple of years ago, I tried to go back and start with season 1, and it was like, this is tough. Like, I don't know if I can revisit these characters right now after already knowing what they're going to be going through. So it was really interesting, and it's heavy, but it's worth getting through. If you can get through it and still kind of keep track of all of these characters and their present day stories and their past stories and how they relate to people, and that took me a minute to get through, but once I did, I thought it was really exciting.
Yeah, and I feel like if you love Disney, if you've watched all the classic Disney movies, you're going to catch so many little Easter eggs that the average non-Disney obsessed viewer won't, and I feel like that really enriched the storytelling for me. Like, I was able to pick up on, Jiminy Cricket has a Dalmatian that's Pongo, and like fun stuff like that. So that they don't always explain, but that just add more detail to what you're looking at.
See, for me, that's the biggest hitch when it comes to recommending the show to someone because, I mean, I think, Emily, you're probably the youngest on the panel, but you were born... Tell me you made it before the 96 cutoff.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, then she's good. She's a true 90s kid.
She's fine.
All you 96ers out there, you're fine, but, come on.
That's
and
Gen
then
Z
we
you're
lose
talking
all of
about.
our 96.
Please don't jump.
Hey, you're doing a Riverdale panel. We'll get him back.
Okay.
We had the benefit just from our upbringing of, Disney movies were they were everywhere. I don't remember my mom buying them ever. We just had them. They were always in the house. And this is Snow White, Cinderella, Pinocchio. These are movies from 60 years before I was even born, but we had them, and it kind of establishes a universe for you to then revisit. Once isn't technically like an original idea. It's these 50 awesome ideas that they took and gave a new life on the silver screen. So I think it would be really hard for someone who maybe is a bit younger, because a lot of kids nowadays, they know the movies that come out as the years that they're kids. There isn't a lot of like back watching.
They probably loved Frozen.
Yeah, they probably. I understand why Disney did it. I'm not debating that. I think it was a terrible choice.
It was.
But I didn't make money off of it.
Upon the show.
If I had stock in Disney Corporation, I might have felt differently. But I didn't. So I think it'd be kind of tough for someone who hasn't seen. I mean, you at least have to see Snow White enough to know it. Because those are, like, Regina truly is the main character of the series looking back, and what they're doing, they're redeeming the very first Disney villain, which is incredible just as an undertaking in general. So, I don't know, I think you need to have that backbone of at least, like, the classic 10 before you can jump in and really appreciate.
That is such a good point.
Yeah,
that is,
classic
I never,
10. Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
And redeeming Regina like that as her character, and just what that actually means to the whole, like, oof, you got me.
I have to say that I fell in love with the show at season 1, of course, but I think once we went to Neverland is when I went, okay, I can use my imagination. And I like the fact, that's why I loved Once so much, is because the stories, like Micah said, that we knew and we loved and we grew up with, they were making them new and fresh. I hate to compare it to this, but it's almost like they did like a Degrassi thing. Like it was Once is like the next generation of these Disney movies. For me, I feel like the whole Frozen thing that they tried doing is they tried making Frozen for the parents, because the parents were at home clearly watching Once Upon a Time. The kids went to bed, and then they were like, well, you've been dealt with this whole Frozen thing, and I'm sure you've seen it 3 million times with your children. Now we're going to make it adult, which I don't think it worked, because Frozen is not adult. So I agree with you. I see where they were trying with that. But for me, yeah, I totally fell in love with Once Upon a Time with Neverland. And at first I really loved them going different places and their adventures, and the whole show was an adventure, but I think they took a turn once they got into like the mid part of the series, which is really hard. My biggest advice for somebody that's going to start watching the show, besides watching the classic 10, which I think Disney movies, which is the best advice you could have, is that I think you have to be very open-minded, and you have to know that what you're about to watch, you might have to watch it again. There were many times I watched these shows, and I would watch it again and be like, oh, I missed that. Really? Mm-hmm. That's what happened? Mm-hmm. Okay. So you have to really understand that you're just not going to watch this once. It should be called twice. Because you might have to twice.
Or at least you can't have, as what our panelist Nick calls, the second screen experience going.
Yeah.
You have to be paying attention.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
I definitely think that's where this show started, what you would call like a 60% brain show, like a House of Cards, a Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Like, you miss a sentence, you're not going to get how this episode ends.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I think around, not even Frozen, I'd say it was around 3B when Zelina came in that I was just kind of like, okay. Like, I was paying attention, but I was never enraptured with the Oz story, or really too many of the arcs after that.
Yeah, my advice that I always give to people when they're like, oh, Once Upon a Time, I'm like, yeah, great show. You have to get through Frozen.
Yep.
Right.
You have to power
get
through Frozen.
Power through.
Once you get through Frozen, things
start to
pick back up again. Like, it's not amazing. It's not where it was in seasons
What was
1
after
through 3.
Frozen?
That was when we
Queens
did
of
the Queen of
Darkness.
Darkness.
See, and I didn't mind Queens of Darkness, but I have rewatched Queens of Darkness, but I feel like Frozen was so bad
It was horrible.
that Queens of Darkness, they could have just did nothing, and I've been like, this is good writing.
This is great. This is amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah.
And I feel like they destroyed Ursula for me.
I wish they'd done just more with those characters.
Love
all
that.
she did
Yeah.
was just tentacle things. That's
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
she did.
Yeah.
She's a witch. She's a
They
very
could've
accomplished
gone
witch.
more.
It was
Yeah.
in Cruella, really?
Well, how Cruella get
I
powers
actually like
again?
that.
Do we know that?
The author.
Yeah,
We
they
do.
explained it.
The author
Yeah.
wrote
I
it.
do not care for Cruella, so I didn't
No.
care
I
for
mean, the
that
actress who
storyline
played
too
her
much.
was brilliant with
Oh,
what
for
she
sure.
Yeah,
had.
she was brilliant, but they
But
didn't give her much.
Cruella's not a queen of darkness.
They kept
No.
bringing her back, too.
I was so
She might be
annoyed
the
by
most
that.
evil Disney character of all time.
I mean, they could have
Probably
changed it
killed
to
her.
like the reign of darkness and had like Jafar as the villain besides Cruella, like another big.
So who
evil-
else could have played besides Cruella? Like, I mean...
You mean who else could have been one of the
Like,
Shades
yeah,
of
who
Darkness?
else could have been... I can't even...
Well, that would have been a good opportunity to bring in Lady Tremaine rather than the season 7
Right.
Yes.
debut, because she's OG.
She's the second.
She's the second. She's the second
which
Disney
makes sense
villain.
as to why it wasn't she was the villain for a hot second in the reboot.
For the quick
but,
reboot.
The
yeah.
Queen of Hearts, Alice in Wonderland.
Oh, yeah.
But they already kind of played that
Cora.
when they did Once Upon a Time in Wonderland, which was a wonderful anthology little mini, one season spin-off, which I also highly recommend you should watch because it is very nice. And
Honestly, I can more easily recommend that than just
Yeah.
once. So get a taste for it.
Yeah.
And there's just the aesthetic and the casting for that series was very good. I
Very
was
well
just
done.
drawn in.
But you do need to
very
watch the
immediately.
first season of Once Upon a Time before you do, because they do make some Storybrooke callbacks. But yeah, I recommend that. Wish they would have done more with little self-contained anthologies.
I wish we would have got little mini-series like Once in Wonderland instead of these... I hate when they switched to... What season was it that we got 2 arcs?
They started
4
that with
and
season
5.
4
4
and 5. I hated the whole 2 arcs. I would have
Yeah.
loved to have...
And 3, actually.
It was
because
3,
it
4,
was-
and
Yeah.
5.
I would have loved to have a whole
Way too
season,
long.
and then in the summer give me a little mini-series. Maybe even
Yeah.
a little recap.
Well, the original
That
plan
would've been a good
was
idea.
when they premiered Once Upon a Time in Wonderland. Originally, they pitched it as the mid-season break series to fill the Once Upon a Time slot while they were on their mid-season between 3A and 3B. But because Once was so popular with the network, ABC's like, no, we're going to air it simultaneously on Thursday nights. And that's what killed it. There was too much Once overload. So I think if they would have kept the anthology series as that mid-season break over the holidays, they could have really expanded upon it and done, Once Upon a Time in Agrabah or Once Upon a Time in Arendelle if they needed to.
And that would
But
be
they
cool
screwed
because
it up.
I feel like that's something you could watch independently
Yeah.
for the most part and enjoy it and not watch
And
Once
move
Upon a
on.
Time. But it would satisfy those of us who are like, hey, Once Upon a Time is on break,
We need
but we
something.
get this show that's
yeah.
an offshoot of it that has the flavor of it and that satisfies like my need for the show to come back.
Yeah, and the network,
And it's fun.
Yeah, the network even admitted after it premiered that, we screwed that up, guys. We're sorry. That was our bad. But it's still canceled.
Like, as a hardcore Throny, if they said, like, in between seasons of Game of Thrones, stay tuned for an 8-part miniseries, Stories from Westeros, I'd be like, yes, I need
Yeah.
that. I need all of it. I need it right now.
Yep.
And it would have allowed us to get more in depth rather than like we're gonna do this like part 1 and tell you all of this stuff, but then we're gonna scrap that and go to part 2 because now we need need to keep moving on. This would have been a way to develop that.
It worked great for Neverland, but then it didn't after that. It was a device constructed for Neverland because they had such a concise and cohesive story to tell.
I could have spent
And
a
then
season there,
they
though.
I
could have.
Yeah,
I
me too.
love
They
Neverland.
Plenty of
And to my feelings on the show, I have to agree with what Eddie said earlier. For me, my favorite 2 seasons were the first 2.
Yeah.
But I really liked Neverland. I really liked
Yep.
Neverland. And I agree with Micah. I could have done a whole season in Neverland. There were things they never explained, like where did the shadow come from,
Yeah.
for example. They still never answered
I feel
that
like we
question.
said that at the time when we were
Yeah,
actually
I think we
podcasting.
did.
I remember hearing
a lot
us
of
talk about
unanswered
that.
questions.
And there was just a lot, like they brought Neverland back in season 6 with the Black Fairy and with Tiger Lily being a red fairy.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, there
I
was
liked
a
that
lot of.
twist a little, but
yeah,
Black
that was
Fairy I
interesting.
didn't need.
Well,
Yeah.
no, but they could have developed Neverland into more of a connected thing rather than trying to shoehorn. I agree that the half seasons didn't service the show very well because then we were during the podcast, you can chronicle it over our episodes. We were like, well, this one wasn't so good. Well, this one was better. It took away from the cohesion of the overall season arcs when they went back to this is the whole story in seasons 6 and 7. It worked better. And those are the seasons that probably in the end I like the first 2 the best.
Yeah.
Then Neverland, and then probably season 6 just for that second half, basically tying off the bow of all the stuff that wasn't as good beforehand.
It's also a pretty weak move just network-wise because if you wrap up a story before like your mid-season break, why am I coming back? Like there are
Exactly.
other shows that are leaving me like, now your character's gonna die, see you after Christmas, then I'm drawn to those rather than like, they killed Peter Pan. Great.
Cool.
Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here isn't as compelling of a question as how are they going to get out of this?
Not to
Yeah.
mention the fact that Peter Pan kept coming back anyway.
And so did
it was-
Rumple.
Right. So
Yeah.
was this
Killed him.
really impactful in the end? That was my thing. But if I was to talk to somebody, I've actually got quite a variety of people on the CPU panelist bench, as you might know, at least at this point in our history. And there are quite a few of them who have said, you know what, I tried watching Once Upon a Time, but I couldn't even... And this is before Frozen. Long before Frozen. They're like, I couldn't get into it. It seems stupid.
Very constructive criticism. For all of the nuance in that. Stupid.
But on the other hand, I mean, I think that you can kind of credit this show with launching all these new Disney live-action remakes
Oh, for
of
sure.
the classic
yeah.
movies that
Absolutely.
they're churning out now like crazy.
There's going to be 4 of them next year.
Although I don't know how I feel about that.
I know, but
Some of them are mixed
but
success.
it's making them a ton of money. And
Cough, cough,
I
it's
think
just
that
high
it's-
definition Lion King. Cough, cough.
Yes.
It is, but
But I'm still curious, and I'll probably still see them.
right?
It's not mine. We're all going.
Field trip.
Let it go.
Yeah,
Knuckle
it's
bite.
reliving childhood nostalgia, which is what this show was, and it's what the movies have now become in its place.
But in a fractured fairy tale sort of way. I mean, I
Yeah.
agree that that's one of the best parts, is that you keep calling it a fresh take. I keep looking at it as Bullwinkle and Rocky's fractured fairy tales. Like, this is what the story you thought it was, but nope, we're going to turn it, we're going to put it in a blender, we're going to turn it on, we're going to pull something out at the end, and that's going to be your story. And it worked 67.2% of the time.
All I can
Specific.
think of is moose and squib.
That's fair.
Can I interject
They
a
do
non
the 90s
sequitur?
babies.
You can...
No, I'm kidding.
Is the... By asking, are you doing that?
Let me
That's a
rephrase.
no- okay.
Can I take us onto a completely unrelated point that I just thought of, like, since we were going to do this, I've been thinking about the show.
Yes.
And it's also Christmas time when this episode that you'll be hearing is being made. We're counting down to Christmas, and I was just wondering why they never did Santa. He's a completely free licensing wise, like, he's a like public domain character. They're saying fairy tales are real. He's real in the Narnia things, which is owned by Disney, and they could have easily done that Santa Claus if they wanted to. I just feel like they could have done one episode.
But did they ever do holidays in general?
No.
They
No,
really
they
did.
never
Holiday
They
did.
kind of
What?
alluded to, like, it's snowing a little bit here, maybe.
But that's Maine, too. I don't know Maine's
Yeah.
weather. It could have been, like, July.
But does the fairy
It gets a little cold.
Right.
The summer snow.
But does the Enchanted
Hello,
Forest
listeners
have
from Maine.
Comment, like, and share. Let us know you're listening.
But does the Enchanted Forest have a Santa Claus?
Who knows? Nobody knows. We don't
Nobody
know.
knows.
Maybe the place
Because there
is
could be
so
another realm.
magical they don't need holiday magic.
But
Maybe
also,
they
there's
don't
all the
have
different
holidays.
realms, though.
What?
He could be from a different realm.
Maybe
For all we
he's-
know,
what if
he
it
could
was
like.
like
He's
a-
in the wish realm because we all.
You
wish
know what
Santa
was a
Claus
missed
would come.
opportunity? Something referring to the Nightmare Before
Yes, I
Christmas.
was just.
Yeah.
I was
Because
just
then they could have
saying.
got Christmas Land and Halloween
Because
Land.
that's
and-
like the original realm.
Why didn't Elsa
Yeah, that
get
is
lost
kind of-
in
It's in
Christmas
Kingdom
Land?
Hearts.
Or Halloween Land. Or any land. Get lost, Elsa.
I-
Honestly,
Did
though,
you say let it go, Elsa?
I said, let's just let it go.
touch on Frozen in a non-negative way. The only
Is that
way I
possible?
know how. I was not mad at the castings they did for Anna, Elsa, and Kristoff.
No.
I was
No, they
actually
were great.
delightfully surprised.
Yeah.
And Elizabeth Mitchell as the Snow Queen. Was
Well,
there.
she's just
Oh,
great
I
at everything.
love
And
her.
I liked that. They could have just done the Snow Queen.
And I
Solid.
Like
Yeah,
one Snow
solid.
Queen. Like not Elsa, just
She could've
one
even
the
person.
Snow Queen.
She
The
could've
Olivia
even-
Mitchell Snow Queen. Solid.
She could have hinted to the fact that she was related to Elsa and Anna, and I would have been
I
way
still would have
okay.
been fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That would have been
That
great.
nice little
Yeah.
nod.
I didn't need Elsa.
No.
Yeah,
We didn't need an
kind of like a
entire
Moana
season.
Maui's hook nod.
Yeah,
like
just
I
like
would
a
have
little,
taken
like a little
that.
thing in there.
Yeah.
There was a lot of things they didn't tap. And then there were, so the part that I hated about the show the most was when they would abandon characters.
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
So-
Which they
Because
did
that
a
was
lot.
one of the
They
things.
did that too much.
That's one of the
So
things I
much.
loved the most in seasons 1 and 2. Not only did you get the backstory of the main group, you know, the charming family tree group, but you also got like the Seven Dwarfs. You got Grumpy / Dreamy's story, and you got Jiminy Cricket's
Cinderella.
story and Cinderella. You got all these little side characters. Each had like an episode of their own. And I loved it. I felt it really enriched Storybrooke, and you got to know the residents. And then, like Kylie said, they just dumped them. Or in Ruby / Red's case, she
Oh,
went and
wow.
got on another show and just totally disappeared.
Or
Man.
just even like Aurora and Philip. Where did they go?
But then there was like
Mulan,
another
where did
Sleeping
they go?
Beauty. Yeah. Mulan, Merida,
Yeah.
Dorothy, and read are just somewhere.
Over
Like
the
I said, I
rainbow.
wanted to call for that one series, the Justice League of lesbian Disney characters.
Avengers, because branding.
The fairy tale Avengers.
But yeah, no, they're just like, that was a weird thing, because Brave was pretty recent as well, but with her, they were like, one episode showing backstory with terrible Scottish accents from
Yeah.
everyone involved.
Didn't she just want to
Never
save her
again.
brothers? Isn't
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
all about her brothers.
Was that
which
during the
an-
Camelot arc?
It was. That's how they tied her in.
I was too
And they
busy
also
looking
brought
at
her
something.
in to teach Rumpelstiltskin how to be a hero, and then
Yeah.
they dropped that immediately. He
Oh,
got
I
his
remember
magic
that.
back,
I wanted
and he
them to
was
bring
like, nope.
Hercules in and
Yeah.
them to sing.
Well,
They, oh
Yeah,
my
it is
God.
Underworld.
I totally forgot they brought
Underworld.
Hercules in.
We have entered the wasted opportunities section of the Looking Back.
potential.
No, Hercules was the one that like was Snow's like first true love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually
but they
loved
also
him.
like
Meg
brought
was
him
nothing.
back in Underworld.
Underworld,
We saw
too.
him and Meg
For
for
a
like
second.
half a second.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
I
right.
hated that so much because the Underworld was such a great opportunity
Yep.
to do that, to like
Yep.
expand on all of these stories that they like just threw in there for half a second, and then you're like,
So how many
Plus
bodies of
the
Rumple are
muses.
in
They should have come in and
the
sang.
muses.
Oh, I know.
You could have
Oh,
casted
wait.
me. I would have been
And
way
find the
okay.
Pointer Sisters, because it just wouldn't be the same.
Exactly.
Lilias White is still around. She was the head muse. She still got it. They could have brought her in.
Yeah.
It would have been a big thing for like OG,
Talk
like, in-depth
about your
Disney
Easter
fans.
eggs.
Too bad they didn't
Yeah.
meet Sabine like earlier. 'Cause she
Well,
would have been a great
Because
muse.
remember, if you remember, they were going to do that. They were going to do Princess and the Frog, and then Disney's like, ha, nope, you got to do Frozen instead. Sorry.
Oh, that's
But,
right.
but bad decisions.
Man,
Yeah,
that
Princess
was
and
a
the
couple-
Frog is better.
yeah.
I was excited for that because Princess and the Frog is like the only Disney movie that very specifically takes place in America, but there's magic. I was like, okay, it's the
That
land without
magical
magic,
realism.
but it's not because I live in
I was
this
gonna say,
land.
it's
and
like
Yeah.
it's
we
like
have
a
magic, it's
real
just-
Magical realism.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I was hoping they would bring in
Might be
a new
voodoo,
kind of magic.
but might be
You
dark.
know, you take what
but-
you can get. You know?
Exactly.
You can leave town without forgetting who you are. If I can take
Yeah.
some Louisiana magic, I'll take it.
Yeah, and then when they finally got around to it in season 7, it was, oh, by the way, your show was canceled, so wrap this up real quick.
And you
Yeah.
just
It's like, because
wasted
Facilier, he was great in season
He could have been a
7.
season villain.
I think they were gearing him up to be season 8, because season 7, the one thing that got convoluted.
He
was
died
the
just.
villain.
I swear I feel
He
like
died off screen.
I feel like he
Yeah.
died in like 2 seconds.
He did.
He did.
I don't
They
do you
brought him
remember
in.
how.
Wish Rumple
Rum
stabbed
stuck
him in
him.
the back.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
The
yeah,
blade.
I actually do
Yeah.
remember that.
The only thing that redeemed that moment was that it revealed Bush Rumple was still around, and I was like, "Oh yeah,
That was so
this is gonna
accomplished.
get weird now."
I can still see him cut. Hey, we're gonna stab you. We gotta get rid of you, buddy.
Yeah, we gotta wrap
We
up
need
these
the
loose
payroll for the finale.
We got 2 months to wrap up this show. We gotta change our writing. Sorry. Here's your paycheck.
We can only get him in the crocodile makeup today. He's being very temperamental about it. I'm sorry.
Which, by the way, love all the makeup and the costumes.
Oh no,
of
the
it.
aesthetic of the show is incredible.
So good. Sorry, weird segue. But
Regina
As
just
a-
serving looks.
all,
Yeah.
Every
all
time.
the fabrics.
As a
Yeah.
costume
Oh.
designer, the show, like, part of the huge reason why I kept watching it was the costumes. Like, everything Regina wore, just, I had
Since the
to
show's
roll.
over,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
a drag queen, I would love Regina.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I have to lose a lot of weight, but I would love her wardrobe.
I know there is much love for the Regina on this panel, but I really want to give much love to Rumpelstiltskin and Robert Carlyle's
Absolutely.
performance.
He's
Wasn't
definitely.
he nominated for an Emmy at one point for
I
his
don't know,
work?
but
Should have
that's
been.
a good idea.
Not long ago, I
Yeah,
feel like
I'm
he was
looking right now.
nominated, or should have.
Because I
He
feel
should have
like-
been if he wasn't.
I thought
Especially
he-
in the first 2 seasons.
Yeah,
Oh,
he
for
was
sure.
so.
Absolutely.
I mean, I love Regina. I love Lana Parrilla. Obviously, she was on Lost and a bunch of other TV
She was
shows.
on Lost?
Wait, she
Yeah.
She was on
No.
Lost. She was in season 3 in the Looking Glass Station.
Yep.
I gotta go back. I haven't rewatched Lost
I
since
haven't
it
That's
either.
also how the show started for me once upon a time. I was like, oh, they're from Lost. Oh, they're from Lost.
Yeah, there was a lot of
Yeah.
that for a while. But Robert Carlyle, I mean, he's had a pretty sizable career. He was in the Full Monty movie, for example. But I just think he's so great, and that character was so great. And probably more than any other character except Regina, they kept him incredibly consistent.
And very dynamic.
Very much.
Exactly.
Like you could really see both ends of the spectrum with his talent, because Rumpelstiltskin and Gold/Weaver were 2 totally different people.
Well, and even Gold and Weaver were 2
Yeah.
totally different people.
I know
Yeah.
Gold was from the beginning, But is it wrong? I like Detective Weaver better than I like Mr.
No,
Gold.
it's not
I
right.
thought he was
I
a
like,
lot less prickly
a
than Mr. Gold.
lot better. I
interesting.
was like, I wish we would have had this Rumple in the beginning, but maybe it's because he was getting better. Like, I don't know.
We needed to have Mr. Gold to set it up because he was still
The villain.
the villain.
really.
He and Regina were the villain of the first 6 seasons.
And I think even more so than her, because you found out she had sympathetic reasons for her villainy,
Right.
Yeah.
whereas his reasons were not as sympathetic at all.
Let me state for the record, I completely agree with Regina's choices regarding Snow White at the time. I understand fully why she decided to do what she did. Snow White was very... You don't
She was a brat.
You don't just
was.
tell
Brat.
people things.
Yeah.
She just like,
No,
oh, hey,
I
by the
agree,
way, your
like-
daughter's dating Stable Boy. Like, what?
I had a hard
Why would
time.
people say
Yeah.
that?
I had a
didn't
hard
bring
time
it up.
sympathizing with Snow White at that point. I totally agree with you.
She was tough.
I ended up
It was-
hating the Charmings. I can't remember what season it was.
I
They got
never
boring.
hated Dave.
They got boring and stagnant.
cheating.
That's
I
what it was.
always
When they
loved
got boring,
Josh.
I was like,
And sadly, it kind of
Anymore.
corresponded with them getting together and getting married in real life. which-
yes, exactly.
I don't know.
I think when she got pregnant
Yes.
in real life and they like started like writing them off
Just-
and like
yeah, 'cause
kind of because she was obviously getting bigger and so they weren't on screen as much, so it was like they're here but they're not here.
But also,
It's
their,
like-
but their story was also played out too.
And
That
the-
they were still main
The part of the
characters.
season where like only one of them could be awake at a time, like that was so annoying.
that was
I was
so
like,
annoying.
I totally forgot
I-
about that.
yeah.
Each other post-it notes.
yeah, we're gonna
Yeah.
leave videos on our cell phones
Yeah. But
so
I
we
will
can
say,
watch it.
but the way that they tied that in with a flashback of them like being awake together at one random point and choosing to go back asleep.
I liked that.
Yeah.
waiting for Emma. That was a nice
That was
little
really
redemption
cute.
of that.
Oh,
but
yeah.
that whole storyline was boring.
So dumb.
The sleeping curse. Oh man.
Sleeping curse.
And
I
it's
mean,
Recycling the curses. My number one complaint. Recycling the curses. There's got to be another kind of curse. I don't care.
Or
It's
something
magic.
else besides.
I was gonna
the
say, I
curse.
wish it would have been something that wasn't a curse.
Could they have done a hex? Or something else that's not a curse?
or
That's
just
evil?
villainy.
Yeah.
Like, just
Yeah.
she has an
Standard
army.
run-of-the-mill villainy. Maleficent
just-
is quite evil.
Right? Can't we just get lightning bolts coming out of somebody's hands? Like we need a curse?
Yeah.
That's a lot like Emperor Palpatine. But within the
He's a
brand.
Disney property as
He's a
well.
Disney.
Bring him in.
True.
Yeah.
Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Once upon a time
The
in
two-
space.
The two most common-
That was the anthology
Yeah.
series they never made.
Once upon a time in a galaxy
Lost
far, far
opportunity.
away.
two
Wow.
most convoluted
potential.
family trees in all of
Potential.
fiction history.
I don't know. I
now
think one
here
speaks
together.
to Skywalker.
Oh, for sure it does.
I'm
But the
sure,
Skywalkers just
I'm
bring
sure
so much
they're
drama.
related somehow.
yeah.
Probably.
Emma's
Probably
long
Peter
lost
Pan's
brother.
great grandfather was the first Jedi or something. I don't know. Let's not.
That's where their magic comes from. They're really just part of the Force.
Let's not until the producers bring back the show and make us. Let's.
Yeah.
If they bring back the show, they better consult us on how to do it right.
Exactly.
We
Honestly,
all get
like-
phone calls.
P.S. The Star Wars saga's having enough trouble right now.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Because it's oversaturating the market.
Yeah.
That's true.
Another-
That's definitely another podcast.
Mark
Another
Hamill
random-
even said that in
Yeah.
an interview. or
Yeah, he
whatever.
did.
Yeah, and he's like, you know, an
There
authority.
is such a
he
thing
is
as
the
Star
Star
Wars.
Wars.
I love
Didn't mean to
him.
cut you off, Mike. I
No,
just
you're
had to
good.
throw that
Yeah.
out. I was like, Mark Hamill said the same thing.
Yeah.
Mark Hamill.
I was
is
just
Star
gonna
Wars.
share
Yeah,
my
he is.
weird and random idea. I think I had it like season 2 of a way that they could have villains. I wanted Mother Goose to be like a mafia style mob boss, and then
that
like
would've been
other
awesome.
like Georgie Porgy and like Jack B. Nimble, like those would be like her capos, and they each had like a special ability. I don't know. I just wanted
wanted
like
the mob-
I think that would have been really
That would've
fun.
been
Talking
really
about
cool.
putting a story upside down. That's
That
awesome.
made
Well,
this
I think
so
weren't they
There, I was gonna say, I
Is that still
heard
in
there's
development?
a
Oh,
rumor,
God.
I don't know, there's a rumor that Laura Michelle Kelly is going to be the star of a new show that's
It's
kind of like
around
that. It's
Mother
called
Goose.
Mother Goose, and it's going to be like a musical show,
Oh.
I guess.
A series?
I don't know.
I mean, I love
Yeah, this was what
Gallivant, but
last
that's
summer
it's always
she
a bad
was-
idea.
Yeah.
until it
Yeah, these
happens.
musical ones aren't
Let's see.
really
Yeah,
I don't
surviving
know.
the day.
Yeah, that was
No.
last June, July in there
Yeah.
that she was leaving to go film it.
Yeah.
Sorry, we have connections.
Remind me again
haven't
who
seen
she
any-
is.
I haven't
She
been
was
reading
the
pilot
original
checks.
Mary Poppins in
London.
Oh, okay.
on the West End. She was in Sweeney Todd. She was Lucy in Sweeney Todd, the movie. So she's like been in a lot
She's
of
been in
stuff.
things, but she's mostly known for Broadway.
Yeah.
Been around Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she's a Disney princess. She really, think she was a Belle replacement too over in London.
Yeah.
Or something. She's done Disney. She looks like a Disney princess, but yeah, I mean the fairy tale genre isn't going to die. I mean they're already talking about bringing Grimm back on NBC in some form too. So
Are you excited, Kylie?
I mean, I have mixed feelings because for me, Grimm was David Gentoli, and I love him. And now he's on A Million Little Things.
which he's wonderful in. P.S.
I'm sure he is. But would it be the same without him?
No, because they want it to be on a female Grimm now.
Which is fine. They'd really have to sell it to me.
Jumping back to Once Upon a Time.
Did you have a point?
Yeah, one of my main complaints about the show was that it was too... Once they started leaving Storybrooke characters by the wayside, I really needed them to leave. Neverland was great because it was a location season. It was we've been in town for a long time. Now we're on an island and it's dark. What? It's crazy. And I was like, alright, this is much more interesting. And then they were like, now we're going back to town. But it's a snowy town now. It was just, I wish they would have gone to Oz and you're in Oz the whole time. And then they were in the underworld, which was just sepia tone Storybrooke.
Yeah.
So you did what I wanted, but in the cheapest way possible.
Budget
I just wish
cuts.
they'd gone places. I mean, they could have brought in Tarzan as a character. He's a cool, young male lead, and there's jungle stuff everywhere. They could have easily filmed. I think one of the reasons they didn't do that was because filming location costs, and they already had Storybrooke. Yeah, they already had the whole town.
Canada.
I would use it too, but yeah, I wish there would have been more of that, and I wish that there had been less magic combat. In quotations, the word combat. It was really more of, I've got a fireball. I've got a fireball. Whose fireball is better? And then we found out. And I would have just liked there to be more nuance to, the way that Harry Potter wand duels, there's back and forth, and you don't know who's gonna do it. The Dumbledore.
Disney own that yet?
Not yet.
They lost
you bet
the
they're
bid on
coming
Harry
for it.
Potter.
To who?
Warner Brothers.
Have you never seen a movie? Sorry, I'm not trying to be snarky. But
And then Disney lost it again for the theme park rights.
Yep.
Disney loses. I didn't think I'd
do.
ever see the day. For now, we'll
They
see.
didn't
Once
want to
upon a
spend
time
money.
at Hogwarts. Let's go.
I think that's Fantastic Beasts.
True.
Yeah.
Accurate.
Yep.
So, just non sequituring.
We kind of have to with this show.
Magic wand combat motif. What about the series finale? We talked about it a little in our season 7B, but now consider, was it a proper send-off for the characters?
Okay, I have to go first.
Okay.
Because
Go first.
I said that I rewatched it before we came here today. And I said that Regina was rushed and she didn't really know what was happening. And that's the reason why I didn't like it. When I watched it for the second time, which I have said, you have to watch things twice to understand. I feel like Micah said this, that it was more of a genuine, she didn't know what was happening. She was happy to be there. And she knew something bad wasn't going to happen. And I was very happy that it ended that way. I was glad we didn't walk in that room and everybody was actually dead. That's what I really thought they were going to do.
Dark.
The only way that I would have been way okay with this show ending, and I thought of this today, is if Henry would have woke up.
Oh.
I really wanted Henry to wake up, Regina walk in the room, and him be like, I just had a dream.
I
And
have
then
the
we
craziest.
and then we see the book sitting on his bookshelf.
Once upon a time in Dreamland.
I mean, I didn't want them to be dead. I just really wanted it to be.
You've said that before, though.
I know. I
Yeah.
really wanted it to be a dream that Henry was having back to the little boy that he was, and it was just he was actually Regina's son.
The hard part
See,
about
I
that
feel
is
like
the
that would've-
actor's older, and
Yeah.
it's really
They would have
hard
had to film that.
They would have had to.
But I feel like
know.
that would have totally negated the whole point of the show, which is hope, and no one dictates your story except yourself.
Yeah.
I really wish, if there was any way possible, to combine the season 6 finale with the best parts of the season 7 finale for the ultimate series finale. I really loved where they left season 6 without all the Henry Lucy fighting the ogre war interjections to set up season 7.
Yeah.
I think I said this on that podcast too. If you would have eliminated those scenes, it was the perfect series finale. But if they could have tied in the future look with them crowning Regina as the good queen at the end, I think if there was a way to mesh those two together, I think that is the ultimate series send-off right there.
I agree
Emma and
with
Hook
that.
having a baby,
I think that's a good point.
ignoring adult Henry, just having normal 18-year-old Henry where we leave him. And, Emma and Hook have the baby Hope, and Regina's the good queen. Yeah, sure, unite all the realms, either in Storybrooke or in a very large enchanted forest. But season 6 finale with the good queen Regina.
Because I agree with that. Because even though Regina might very well have been the redemptive story we were watching all along, that's not what we were led to believe when we started watching. When we started
Emma.
watching, it was
It
Emma.
was Emma.
So then it became sort of, and even people kind of shipped them in a weird way, but it became Emma and Regina and their friendship. And so if the series finale had ended on their happiest endings together, I feel like I would have been a lot more satisfied than I was. Everybody agrees?
Yeah.
I think so.
All right, wow. Do you think Once Upon a Time would hold up with the passage of time? Why or why not? Was it time for it to go? Would you have watched more seasons, or should it have ended sooner?
I think it will stand up through time, especially if we keep getting these Disney movie reboots that we're getting. I think the new generations will still be able to relate to the show. I'm trying to remember the rest of your question because I had more responses.
I'll
right here.
Oh, perfect.
I'll jump on yours while you're reading.
Yeah.
I think visually, it'll stand up too, because they really didn't include a lot of technology either. Like the styles that they chose are pretty classic for current day Storybrooke or Seattle, and fairy tale is fairy tale. There isn't a lot of like pop culture references that are going to be dated. So I think visually, like aesthetically, I think it'll hold up too.
Yeah, and the rest of the question was asking about watching more seasons.
Was it
and
time
everything.
for it to go? Would you have watched more?
Yeah.
Or should it have ended sooner?
I definitely would have watched more seasons, I think, particularly with how strongly season 7 ended and how it all tied everything together. I think after they found out that the show was going to get canceled was when things got tied up, but I think if they had left some of those loose ended, it would have been fine, and I would have continued watching the show. I think also, though, that being said, season 6 would have been the best way to end the show.
Season 6 just had the momentum behind it of, alright, these are these characters, it's time to put this thing to bed. I agree that season 7 was a strong move, mostly just because it was a return to the season-long arc format, which is just better. But I definitely don't want to never have a revamp. I definitely, in my lifetime, I would like them to make a new series, either with grown-up Neil and Hope, there's some dynamic kids out there taking on the world or whatever, but I don't think it needs to happen now. It's very similar to how I feel about Stranger Things. I want them to bust out one more good season, then leave it for 20, 30 years and do an It kind of a thing where they jump back to it. I need time to miss the show before they give me some more. Unless they're going to do completely unrelated anthology things like Another Wonderland, I'll watch that right now.
Yeah, I completely agree with Micah and Emily. I think Lost, they should have had an end date or an end story arc in mind, and we're going to tell a quality story, not just give you a lot of episodes. Quality over quantity is always my thing. That's why I love British TV so much. It's very quality over quantity.
Yep.
Season 6, I would have been fine with it ending without the Henry Lucy flash forwards or flash sideways, if you want to take a Lost term. And I think it ended about the right time as far as the original set goes. I think this reboot could have continued a little longer. Everything really looked promising on the back half of season 7. But I agree with Micah. As much as I love the show, I don't want it to come back next television season.
No.
We made a mistake. I do want some time to miss it, but I also think the best way for them to go forward would be to do another anthology series like they did with Wonderland. Test the waters a little bit, give us a good quality product as a mini-series, and then go from there. I don't think we need the full-blown
Even if it's just going to be a Netflix-only 8 episodes, something short and sweet.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I really think Once has the #potential.
#drink.
Is that I think in 5 years from now, in even next television season, we can have a mini-series from Once. There's just so much content in this series, I think they could be like, okay, we're going to revisit this. We're going to revisit this. We're going to revisit this. And I think they have the potential of doing that. I would even be okay if they did a miniseries just on like their app, the ABC app or whatever. Like just, I feel like I love the series and I love how it ended and everything, but I feel like there's that itch that I want more. But every time with this series that I've wanted more, they didn't give me more. So I think it's time for me to close the door and lock it and lose the key for a while and bury it and find the time capsule in about 5 years.
That was so elaborate, but I have to say,
Visual and illustrated.
it was really specific and well developed. But I do agree with that. There is a part of me that will always itch a little bit because I do love. I love the idea, and I've always been this way, taking something familiar and re-envisioning it. I always find that super exciting because I feel like I'm part of on the inside of a really cool idea, even though I have like no involvement in it whatsoever, but except for the knowledge of these characters and stories and so on. So I agree. I would be okay with like a small little anthology or like a little mini series, as long as it was well developed and not just scrapping at things or, oh, that seemed popular, let's throw together something. Like, I don't want that. I would be okay waiting a while, and I would be okay in another several years where it's like, you know, it returns and you're like, oh, I have been waiting and now they're going to bring back this story again. But I'm going back to like, we've made reference to Degrassi before. I grew up watching the original, and when the new generation came out, even though it wasn't targeted for my demographic, I was still really excited, and I still watched it because I was like, they're bringing, you know, they're incorporating this, you know, something I grew up with, something I used to love, and now I'm
called twice.
Well, and for the slightly younger viewers, I felt the same way about Boy Meets World and Girl Meets World.
Yeah, so, and there's that too.
There's Full House and Fuller House.
For some even younger viewers, I felt that same way about Heroes Reborn, which they had some rocky seasons.
I just want to say that I'm uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation right now.
I mean, you know what we mean.
Where's Lily?
But all that to say, to answer the question too, I think for what we know about where the series was going and what we know of talking about the show, I actually feel it did end at the right time because I was done. I was personally like, I can't do this anymore right now. And because what we know of season 7, at least that going into it, we knew that it was ending, and we knew that with it ending, a lot of stuff's going to be thrown at us, a lot of stuff will be tied up or not tied up the way we want. I went in with that expectation that was fine, but I can't do that again. So I'm okay with it ending, and I am actually okay with the way it ended. I do like what Kristen said, and I do agree with that. But because that didn't happen, for me, by the end of it, I was like, all right, they just they threw it all out there. Yeah. They said, we want this, this, and this, and we're going to put it all in this final moment. And they did, and I was okay with it. The whole good queen, throwing people in there. We see, like, little kid Neil and the baby and the, you know, the original actors. Like, I love that stuff. I'm cheesy like that. I'm okay with these people just coming in and tying it with a little bow.
With the announcement, though, too, that Disney is going to have their own streaming service, I could see the potential of this coming back as, like, their streaming service and being solely on that, kind of like a Netflix original sort of thing.
I didn't even know that was happening.
It's called Disney Plus, and it's launching next year. And so slowly all the Disney-owned properties that are currently on Netflix and Hulu will be leaving as their contract expires, and they'll be moving into Disney.
Like, they just announced Moana's getting taken off Netflix
because it's going to
there's going to be a Loki series
and a Scarlet Witch series.
So I could see once being rebooted and brought back to be like a Disney Plus exclusive sort of thing.
I know we keep talking about the mini series that we would love to see them. The only issue I would have with the mini series is if, like, for example, let's say that they went back to Wonderland. I don't need another Alice. I don't need another, Cinderella. I don't need, like, if they brought, like, they went to Snow White, I don't need another Snow White. Like, I think if they're going to do it and they're going to do it the way that we want them, they would need the same characters.
See, and I don't want to see any of the characters that we've had.
That's what I was going to say.
I don't want to see the same actors. I'm good with where they left it. We've already done Wonderland twice because Regina's mother was also the Queen of Hearts. And, we have had one Snow White, but we've had 2 Cinderellas, 2 Alices. Yeah, let's do something different. But it can be a side character that we've seen before, like an Ariel or a Mulan or, Merida maybe too soon, anything post-Brave, but I'd be okay with that. Or even, I don't know, Hansel and Gretel or Sleeping Beauty would be a great anthology series.
They really need to give Aurora like a fair shake. She was always just
I mean, they're making a
useless.
Maleficent too.
Are they?
Which is they are. It's filming right now.
That doesn't seem like a good.
It doesn't. But but because of that, that's why I don't think it's going to happen in Once Upon a Time land. But
or maybe that's why it will happen. A la Frozen.
Maybe.
Oh, they think we shouldn't do it. Well, then let's do it.
Right. Let's prove them wrong.
What was the third Disney movie of all time?
But on the bright side,
Pinocchio, I think.
Was it?
Pinocchio.
Speaking of Pinocchio.
And Dumbo.
August, I think, I'm sorry, I read ahead on the questions, Kylie, but the next question is, who are your favorite characters and why? August was one of my favorite characters from the moment I saw
I
him.
wanted him to end up with Emma before Hook came along. I wanted August and Emma to end up together.
Yep.
I like the
100%.
actor who played Neil, but I didn't ship them ever.
No.
It never worked for me.
Thank you for Henry, but you're good.
So attractive.
You've made your contribution.
Also, Sheriff Skinny Jeans.
Pinocchio.
They just got rid of him so fast.
I was so
Graham?
Because
sad.
he got contracted to do...
Fifty
They killed off his character.
Yeah, there was some
And then
He
years.
was the
he was-
huntsman. Sheriff Skinny Jeans was the huntsman.
And I cannot take credit for the Sheriff Skinny Jeans name. That goes to a wonderful writer on Entertainment Weekly, who I don't remember if it was Jeff Jensen when he was there, but whoever
No,
it
it
was.
was Hillary, whatever her
Thank
name
you.
was.
I love you. Because Sheriff Skinny Jeans is a great name. But yeah, he was only contracted for 1 season. He was supposed to be
So
killed off.
sad.
And then, hey, you've done a little TV work. Why don't you go audition for this big movie where you get to be naked a lot of the time?
No jeans.
And
Not
again, with him
complaining
in that
about it.
movie, when he came out in jeans, I was like, thank you, baby Jesus.
Yeah, not complaining.
Bless America.
I haven't answered this question, so I'm going to.
Oh.
I think once will hold up with the passage of time. I think and I think Kristen was the one who said it, it's fairy tales. I mean, fairy tales are timeless. And I think once is just repurposing the fairy tales, so there's nothing to keep it from being timeless. Would I have watched more seasons? I'm kind of glad it's done. I'm glad it's done. I'm with Eddie in that time capsule. I might pick it up once upon a time later in the future. I don't know about an anthology series. I mean, in theory, it sounds like a really good idea, but they weren't very kind to it when it was popular. So I just don't know that even an anthology series would satisfy unless, like someone said, they do it really, really well. I'm of the opinion that season 6 was really the end point, and they did a really admirable job with season 7, better than most shows would. But now that season 7 is done, I'm happy it's done. So I'm okay with it. I'm satisfied. My favorite character is Rumple.
He definitely was the reason that I think a lot of the people who stayed watching the show did, because I've already voiced my opinions about Jennifer Morrison and all that, but Snow and the, at the time, comatose Charming, there wasn't a lot of, like, pull there. Snow was just kind of like, we know who she is, and she's a good link to Emma, who is now established in the town, but a lot of it was just what Robert Carlyle was bringing to the stage in all of those flashback sequences, that Rumpelstiltskin, especially for being such an obscure, like, fairy tale character, I would have never ever picked him to be, like, the big bad. He brought him to life in just an incredible way.
And I love how he was tied in as Captain Hook's crocodile. That was fun as well.
And he was also the Beast, and he was
He was
also
the Beast.
100 of other things, and
But it was fun.
You live long enough, you know, you got
You get
I guess,
yeah.
so you guys are probably going to be a little shocked, but my favorite character, even though I love Regina all the way through, and we have to give her some credit, is the Blue Fairy.
Really? I am a little shocked.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Regina, but I love the Blue Fairy, and I really, there's a spin-off. Let's do that spin-off for me. She
But
just,
could we do much more with it? She grants the wishes and
I
rules
don't
the
know.
fairies.
She just always made me feel happy. Maybe that's why I like her.
Oh.
I know.
But
When you wish upon a star, your
Yes.
dreams will come true.
But I do have to say my favorite character is Regina. Always. And
I mean, now I'm not shocked.
I know. I love Regina, and I think I like Regina because she changed when she needed it. Like, her character just changed so drastically when she needed to change from...
But it wasn't unbelievable.
Contrived,
Yeah.
Right.
It was
Correct.
done in a logical way.
Right.
Which is interesting to say for a fairy tale show.
Right. But I feel like she legitly played, 3 different people? I mean, I think we saw 3 different
Yeah, we saw young Regina.
Regina,
Evil Regina.
Ronnie, Evil Queen, and Wish Realm Evil Queen.
Yeah.
Well, and even young Regina too, when she's very naive, learning magic.
Teenager.
I have to agree. If I were to pick a character and a character's story and their arc and their development through all 7 seasons, she's the one. I mean, she's the one I enjoyed watching the most too. I was never like annoyed by that character or actor.
I don't think her story got stale.
Never.
no.
But she was also so engaging. The same way the Rumpelstiltskin and Robert Carlyle performance of that throughout the entire series. For me, it was him, but it was really her. Where I'm like, all right, like I'm loving this, and even when she was good, there was depth to her. There were so many layers. And when she was bad, you loved her. And when she was being good, you felt for her. You were moved, or at least I should say. So I think she is my favorite character.
She didn't come by her goodness just because.
Yeah.
There's a value to having learned the lesson rather than to having
She
been
learned
on the side
several
of right
times,
every
too.
time.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
she started off good, went to the dark side,
Yeah.
and then really had to claw her way back through everything she
That
did.
was also my one season that I thought had so much potential. Is when,
Drink.
right. It's when her heart got separated and we had the evil queen and then we had
Oh, the 2 evil
yeah.
queens.
Oh,
Yeah.
I liked what they did with that evil queen in the end with Wish Realm Robin, because then I was like, we're getting what we wanted, but we're not, but we are, but we're not.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
that wasn't great. Also, big wasted character, the dragon.
Yes.
He was like the dragon. He was only a dragon ever one time in a really shoehorned way.
Yeah.
And he just I think they didn't.
didn't he help them when
He
they got
ruled the
trapped
land
in,
of mirrors.
when they got trapped in the
Yeah.
mirrors?
Why wasn't he Lily's dad?
Yeah.
That would have
Like,
made more sense.
For real.
I feel like they forgot about him. They're
They
like,
did. Throw away. Oh
Sure.
shit, we gotta wrap
I
that
think it was a
up.
good 3 or 4 seasons between his appearances, because he was there pretty early. I
He
think
was, yeah.
because he's the only
Magical
magical
being.
in our world.
Yeah.
And then they were like,
Oh,
hey.
we have him. Look,
Yeah.
he's in our toolbox. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite character's Hook. I mean, no
What?
surprise.
I'm
right?
shocked. I'm just shocked.
I loved the way that they wove him into the stories, and I thought his character development was actually pretty solid. I thought he didn't really get stale either. I thought he was really nicely rejuvenated, if you will, for season 7. I just really liked him, and I liked his relationship with Emma. I thought him and Jennifer Morrison were great together. I really enjoyed Hook, and he wasn't bad to look at, so...
I actually I hated Hook when we first met him. I mean, I didn't hate him. He didn't do anything for me, but I eventually
You saw the light.
yeah.
Or the guy liner.
Oh.
Yeah.
Captain Guyliner.
I think it's when he helped Henry. Maybe I have daddy issues. But I'm just...
Wow, true confession.
when he helped Henry, I was just like, oh, he's so sweet.
Yeah.
He
He
was
had buddy
always
cop
kinda sweet.
superpowers.
Yeah.
Anytime they set him up with one other character to go on a side quest,
They were-
I
that
was
was
in
awesome.
rapture.
It was so
I
awesome.
hated
Especially
Arthur.
when he went with David /Charming.
Oh, that was my favorite.
That was a good one
Those
because
two
that
were
was
good
nice
together.
awkward situations. Like, hi, we're the same age, but I'm older than you, but I'm dating your daughter, but I'm younger than you. That was just that family tree, bro. Can't. Sorry, Hope, you've inherited the worst ever.
I have to say it was really weird when Emma started calling Snow and Charming Mom and Dad.
Yeah.
No, I thought it was
I liked
sweet.
it.
I was like,
You have to have that suspension of disbelief.
Yes.
that-
It's your friend
Suspension
Mary
of
Margaret. What are you
disbelief.
doing?
Yeah. Oh, favorite character. I guess it's my turn. Oddly enough, my favorite characters were Regina first and Rumpel second because, again, they were just phenomenal. The acting abilities of those two I just love. They were able to play so many different facets of the same character and do it so expertly. It was just so much fun to watch. But I also feel like Regina's character in particular never got stale. Out of everybody in the series, I think she's one of the only ones who didn't, which is why she tops my list with Rumpel a close second. Because even for a time, the gold storyline got a little much.
Yeah.
But, like, I did get bored with Hook at one point because he and Emma were doing things out of character when they had moved in together. And
Yeah.
there were things that I'm like, Hook wouldn't
That was
just
the
sit
Dark
by.
Swan. Or...
Yeah,
I know,
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
I think the
Hook,
Dark
Hook lost his agency at one point for me, and that's why he's not on my list. Yeah, I mean, I loved Emma at the beginning since she was kind of the audience surrogate, but after a while, I could see why Jennifer Morrison said it's time to pack up and go, because I was getting tired of Emma, and I'm sure she was as well. So really, Regina, throughout the series, was my solid. She was always really reliable to be a top character.
I don't know if you want to talk about your least favorites. I can transition into the next looking back question. Once Upon a Time was created by Edward Kitsis and Adam Horowitz. This was their first co-creation, though they were head writers on Lost for a time. What did you think of their first time out? Would you watch other shows they create together? Obviously, they went on to co-create Once Upon a Time in Wonderland and Dead of Summer, a horror anthology series created for Freeform, canceled after one season. Would you watch any past projects, future projects? Why or why not?
They didn't learn from their Lost mistakes with
No,
this
they
series,
didn't.
which is, I mean, I loved Lost. I hated it at first because it took J.J. Abrams away from Alias. But once I got over that fact, I really started to like Lost. But the problem with Lost is that they did have an idea of where they wanted the story to end, they got lost in the middle because they didn't know how long they had until they were able to get there. Once Lost got an end date, the story got better. That's the one lesson
Except for season 6.
Well, yeah, except for season 6.
Which, for saying Lost, that's saying a lot.
It is, yeah. So I feel like Edward and Adam, they did not learn from that mistake of you need to have an end date if you want to tell a really concise and cohesive and engaging story. Obviously, Once Upon a Time in Wonderland was great, but it got canceled not through their fault because that was a very great, concise show. They learned a lot with that, and if they could create more shows like that, I think they're great as a mini-series team, but overall, they still have a lot of planning to do, which is probably why their Freeform show got canceled after a season. I don't know, I'd never watched it, never heard of it.
Yeah.
But I think they have a little bit more to go as showrunners. But overall, not bad for their first time out on their own.
To advocate for them a little bit, I think they were also just, like, the ideas that they're having weren't made to exist in TV as it was then. TV has always been churn, churn, churn. Like, if people like it, keep doing it no matter what happens. I mean, I think, in probably 8th grade when Lost came out, and it was like Netflix was still a DVD delivery service. They were not the platform they were now. Binging was not a thing at all. And I think you had to churn. You had to go for these full 13 or 24 episode seasons. You didn't really get the luxury of being able to just nope, all we have is just this nice short chunk. I think something that they work on in the future, if it's not big network, if it is a limited, somewhere like Netflix or Hulu or somewhere that it can, or even Disney Plus, where it can, a small idea can become as big as it can be without the pressure of you have to make more brilliance. I definitely would be, if I see their names on something, I'm gonna at least give it a look.
Yeah, I think for me it would depend on what it is. I think if it's a Once Upon a Time spin-off sort of thing, yeah, I'll probably watch it just because of my interest in the original show. But it would depend on what it is, for sure.
For me, it would depend on what it is, just because I agree with Kristen 100%. They did not learn the lessons from Lost. I think the show Once Upon a Time very much followed the exact same pattern of Lost, with the difference being that season 7 of Once Upon a Time paid off in a much better way than season 6 of Lost.
I agree.
Season 6 of Lost asked a lot of the viewers, and it we know this for a fact because they had to give a special episode, a little mini-sode, on the DVD release of season 6 to make up for it, because they failed to acknowledge that the island was a character, that they had made the island a character of Lost, and that's what was missing from season 6. On season 7, they at least learned that lesson in Once Upon a Time. They acknowledged all the elements that made Once Upon a Time, and gave all of them their due by the series finale. But I also agree with Emily. I would be interested because it's them, but because their track record isn't great, I don't know that I would just jump on board because it's them. I would have to find out what the topic is. And not necessarily if it's a Once Upon a Time property, it could be something else, but it would have to be a topic that entices.
I have to agree with you that I think it has to be a topic that I would be interested in, but I definitely think them writing it would also make me interested in watching it. I actually kind of have to disagree a little with you guys. I think their writing got a little better than Lost. I do agree with you, Kylie, that they did fall in the same patterns. Thank God we didn't get smoke. A lot of curses. A lot of curses.
No smoke monster.
I mean, there was magical smoke.
Yeah.
I feel like they're still learning as writers, and I feel like anybody they have to keep developing their craft. I think they have a good start project with Once Upon a Time, and it's going to be interesting to see where they go next. So with that being said, I think even if it's something that I wouldn't totally be interested in, I would probably watch it. But then agreeing with Micah, I really hope it's a mini-series, because they tend to do things in smaller forms and take a huge idea and put it in a smaller, compact version instead of we have all these episodes and we have to make up all these loose ends. I don't think I can do this many loose ends.
Would you follow any of the individual ensemble actors from Once Upon a Time to new TV projects or films? Some of them have current projects. The most prominent one is Josh Dallas, is now on Manifest, which was A, picked up by Couch Potatoes Unite as a potential podcast candidate. In fact, it's already been requested. B, NBC, this was NBC's big success this year, is Manifest, so that one's going on. But then many of these actors have pasts, large and small, in TV and film, but particularly TV. Would you go back to watch anything past, or would you watch anything in the future? And it doesn't have to be everyone. Who would you watch?
To answer that, it depends on what it is and who the actor is. So if I liked their performance in that and I had never seen them before in Once Upon a Time, yeah, I'll be like, yeah, I want to see them perform. I like that performer. Some people, I am going to go back and look at some stuff that they've done. Them
like who?
Like Robert Carlyle, for sure.
Yeah.
And he comes to mind immediately where I'm like, I really want to see his other stuff. And I would definitely see future stuff from him.
Another reason I wanted to watch Once Upon a Time, more a smaller little nugget, was, I loved Jennifer Morrison on How I Met Your Mother. That's when I first got introduced to her as Zoe. And I'm like, oh, she's leaving How I Met Your Mother to be the lead in this show? That's cool. And I already knew Jennifer Goodwin.
I love Jennifer Goodwin.
I knew her from watching a few of her
her
things previously, so I came in knowing a few, and then
it should be noted that I only list their regular appearances.
Right.
I didn't list all their guest appearances recurring, because that would have been too much.
It would have been too much, yeah. So, but that's how I got introduced, to those two. But then as the season, and I knew Elizabeth Mitchell from Lost and Rebecca Mader from Lost, so it was fun to see. The girl who played Belle, she was on Lost too. So I'd already seen a bunch of them on Lost. And I loved Lost so much that it was fun to see those familiar faces and all the Lost Easter eggs as well. But as the season went on, oh gosh, I think our Jafar in this series, not Saeed from Lost, who was on Once Upon a Time in Wonderland.
Coded Fair.
Yeah, this Jafar, he was on Covert Affairs, which was on USA, which I had watched. He did great on that as well. And then in season 7, the girl who played Ivy, she was on Reign.
Yeah,
that was
she
on the
was
CW.
Mary Queen of Scots.
Yeah.
I highly recommend this show.
Because I started watching season 7, I really liked her. I'm like, oh yeah, she's on that Reign show that's still on Netflix. So I went and binged that real quick in the interim between 7A and B, and really liked that too. So yeah, I agree with Amy. As always, it depends on the project. But the things that I have watched so far, either before Once Upon a Time or during the run, I've really enjoyed. I haven't watched Manifest. I'm not sure if I'll get into it. It seems like another Lost, almost, of the, what happened.
It seems to me kind of like the those ABC series like V or like 5 years later or whatever it was called, where it's just like, here's an incredibly intriguing concept that will get canceled after 2 seasons, something like that. As far as like, I think if for star power, as far as like if their name is in the lead of something, I will watch it regardless of concept. Robert Carlyle for sure, Lana Parrilla, Colin O'Donoghue. I'll give it to the 3 that stayed. The 3 that stayed with us. I'll give them credit and I'll try to keep them going. But I'm a big fan of Frontier on Netflix, which is Jason Momoa's series that he works on in between being Aquaman. And his name's on the list. Let me find it so that I can say it. Michael Raymond James, that played Neil / Balefire. He was recently in this season that the episodes just dropped 2 days ago. I binged that really quick. It's only 6 episodes, but still, I binged it really quick. So I was like, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while.
You're not dead.
Yeah, you're not dead. He was very frequently dead on this show.
He died a lot.
More than he lived.
I have to say, for me, I'll watch. I love TV, so I'll definitely watch it. But what's going to be hard for me is Regina's going to be Regina for a long time. Mm-hmm. It's going to be really hard. I mean, she can be on other shows, but I'm definitely going to still be like, oh, look, it's Regina. And it's going to be hard to get out of that character mindset. Do I think she has the ability to do it? Absolutely. So to answer the question, yeah, I'm going to watch it, and I most likely will enjoy it. But Regina's going to be in my heart for a long time.
I know Manifest is definitely on my list because I love Josh Dallas a lot. I enjoyed Jennifer Morrison in House. That's where I started watching.
Me too.
My family and I, we all sat down and watched that entire show together. So that's where I fell in love with Jennifer Morrison. And when I saw her in Once, I'm like, oh, okay. I'll definitely follow, I think, some of the people, depending on the project. Like Colin O'Donoghue, like he automatically will get at least a try on whatever he's doing next. And Lana Parrilla, I love her. And yeah, kind of echoing what everybody else is saying in terms of watching stuff that they're on. So
I don't know that any single actor would convince me to, like, oh, look, Josh Dallas is in Manifest. That's why I'm watching Manifest. It wouldn't be. I'd be watching Manifest for the concept to see if it's a lot like Lost. There are some actors on the list that just by virtue of what they've done before, I probably would be like, oh good, she's in it, like Ginnifer Goodwin or Lana Parrilla or Robert Carlyle, since you've mentioned him. I really like him so much. But I don't know that I am going to say, you know what, I loved Once Upon a Time so much that I have to follow the cast. There are shows like that for me. That's why I asked this question. But I don't think this is one of them. I think I would consider it a bonus if they were in a show that I was interested in, but not necessarily would I consider them a draw. And I've actually watched 3 out of 4 seasons of Reign. I stopped for reasons I won't talk about right here. I had already known whatever her name was. What is her name, for crying out loud? I'm not seeing it on my list. Oh well, her. So I knew who she was already. That was true of all of the Lost actors as well. So I'll probably watch some older stuff. I know there's some on this list that people have requested, and some that I've always wanted to watch, and some that I have watched, and some that we've covered, like True Blood. So there you go. Now, this is the multi-million-dollar question. Would you recommend this show to others? Why or why
I
not?
feel like we always go, let me get asked this question.
Yes, but.
But,
yes, but.
Yes.
but now we're done, so you got to
Yeah.
answer this with real enthusiasm.
Okay.
Either way.
Yes, but they need to be a Disney fan, and they have to know going in, you just have to get through Frozen.
Yep.
You know?
Get out your phone. Do what you got to do. Have
Yeah,
it on.
power
Right,
through
yes.
it because things
Yep.
will
But
connect.
don't get out
Second
your
screen.
phone before Frozen.
No.
night.
No.
You'll
You'll
be
be
Pay
lost.
attention.
You use your phone
Wrong,
during Neverland. We're not
series,
friends anymore.
lost.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, but just power through Frozen any way that you can. Give like 50% of your attention to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know at
You
least.
eventually are going to let it go. So,
Make like Elsa.
Now, I definitely know a lot of people who it's a new phenomenon because binging is now a thing. If a show is still going, they just won't watch it. I have like 10 friends who are like, I will watch Game of Thrones when it's done. I don't understand the mentality behind that because I like to catch up.
Because
And
they
then
don't
be
want to wait
up
2
to
years
date.
in between a season.
Well, the Sherlock fandom is doing great, so that's.
I know, exactly.
We are going strong. I'm part of that fandom too.
But I would
That's
definitely.
another podcast, which we already do. Proceed.
We're going to all the realms this time.
Yep.
I would definitely take it on a person-by-person basis. There are people who I know, like, any of my friends who are more into, like, true crime shows like the Law and Orders or even Sherlock, I definitely would say that's kind of a different wavelength necessarily than this show. I'm a very broad and wide type of taste when it comes to things like this, so I get to cheat a little bit and dip from every pot, but I would definitely want to consider what I know about them as a watcher and if I think they can appreciate the show to the extent that I think, despite all its flaws, it deserves to be appreciated.
I agree with that. It is definitely, I can't give it a solid yes or no because it depends on the person I'm speaking to. And if I think that they'll have the appreciation and the attention span, because like I said before, earlier in this podcast, it's thick. It's hard to get through if you're not paying attention or if you're one of those people who likes to multitask. This is not a show that you can multitask as a whole. You can't split your attention. You gotta know. So it's, for me, yes, I would recommend it. And with or without the Frozen series or part of the series, but it would be on whether or not I actually think the person would appreciate it, would stick with it, would be able to engage in it, because it's, you have to really be dedicated to a show like this to see it through. You have to be dedicated to the concept, the devices that are used, the character development. Sometimes you got to be okay with just what the hell happened to that character in that storyline. Well, I guess we're going to keep going, you know? Mm-hmm. So
I would recommend it based on a lot of what people have said, but just encourage suspension of disbelief.
Yes.
Yeah. If you try to analyze it in a way that, I mean, granted, we're a podcast that analyzes, but if you try to analyze it in the moment, you are going to be one of those people that says, I couldn't get into this, it was stupid. It isn't about analysis. It's about letting your imagination run free. It's fairy tale and stories and fantasy.
My favorite thing.
And that's the key thing. It is about stories. It's about the beginning, middle, and end. And that's the other reason I would recommend this, because there is a beginning, middle, and end. The middle might have been bumpy, but the beginning and the end were very strong, and the end, hell. So that's why I would recommend it as well. Is there anything else you want to say looking back at Once Upon a Time?
I just want to say thanks.
Yeah, this was a
I want to say
fun.
thanks for giving me a show that I could, even though it was really hard to lose my mind in, because I had to wrap my head around everybody that was dating everybody and who was with everybody. I just want to say thanks for giving us another solid show. And bouncing back on the other question, yes, I would recommend this, but I definitely would recommend it to my Lost friends that have watched Lost, because you're about to go through the same thing.
As opposed to your friends who are lost and can never be found again?
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, they can watch it too, wherever you are.
You're probably the smoke.
They're the smoke.
Thank you for giving Regina a happy ending that doesn't involve a man.
Yes. Yes. Nicely.
You know, I mean, but we saw her lose two loves, Daniel and Robin. Still hurts. Hashtags always will hurt.
Hashtag never forget.
Never forget.
He has a new show, by the way. It's on HBO.
Emily's taken.
Yeah.
It's very gay though. But anyway,
I would have had a hard time seeing Regina with somebody new after Robin was supposed to be her happy ending from Miss Tink. So I'm really happy that her happy ending involved being crowned the good queen.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that was perfect for her journey.
If you told me that moment of just her saying the words "the good queen" would have made me cry, I'd be like, nah. I'd have been wrong. I'd have been very wrong.
But even she was crying. Like Snow, she even choked up a little bit. The actress did as she was saying it. So I think that was. I don't think that was fake. I think that was a real reaction.
No, you mentioned that the showrunners, they had to acknowledge that the island was a character. I think also, because I was thinking about that in terms of, is there like a thing like that in Once? I think there was, because the storybook would just appear. And that happened throughout the series. We never got any, it wasn't Merlin, we never got anybody claiming credit for it. Just the storybook and some of the pages. I mean, some pages were sent by evil people. But it would just pop up where it needed to be. And that really, I don't know if that's an author thing or what it is, but that is one part of it that stayed. While it's a mystery, it's the magical kind. It's the kind I don't necessarily need to know the answer to. I'm grateful that it was there.
Yep, I agree. I think a storybook was analogous to the island in the sense that it was the inanimate character, but they did a lot better with it. Well, if nothing else, then what I would like to do is, for the final time, thank Micah, Eddie, Amy, Kristen, and Emily for joining me for our Once Upon a Time series panel, which is now officially closed. But before we officially close it, I have to do the thing, which goes like this. CPU is produced by Back Pocket Productions, run by yours truly, the Chief Couch Potato, and hails from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Please, if you like what you hear, take the time to rate us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, or Google Play. Give us stars, comments, reviews. Let us know how we're doing, what you like. Did you like Once Upon a Time? What didn't you like? What we should keep? What we should toss? All that business. If you have suggestions on shows we might consider, contact us at our website, couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com, via email at couchpotatoesunitepodcast@gmail.com, or via Facebook and Twitter. We add new and old shows to chat about around the water cooler all the time, though. We have more new episodes coming down the pike, and as always, if you miss old episodes or want to know in general what we cover, just find our website. It's all on there, and you can Google us. It's like the easiest thing to do now, because we are Couch Potatoes Unite. But you can also subscribe to our website, channels, and social media, because that's easy too. Until the next time, Once Upon a Time is available to stream in its entirety on Netflix, the unofficial non-sponsor of this podcast TV addiction. Our coverage of Once Upon a Time, however, as a panel, is now officially done, though I wouldn't be surprised if it cropped up in other discussions from time to time. If you have nominations for shows we should cover on our podcast, contact us via social media or our email. You can volunteer to be a panelist too. In the meantime, and until next time, until next episode, new episodes published every Wednesday. Keep listening, keep watching, stay tuned.
Bye-bye.